everyone. Thanks for coming today. Hopefully you can hear me. Can somebody say they can hear me? I always feel like that in my class.
I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome everyone to the CISL retreat. And while you're waiting to get started, and we do a couple things just to get practice, Karen put something in chat for everyone, and it's like a little Qualtrics form. And that maybe as we wait for people to find their way into the room and get comfortable with their coffee, you can click on that and fill it out if you don't mind while we're waiting. Just a little Qualtrics form.
How do I find the chat? I am
Okay,
not.
great. Thank you. Okay, so if you go to the little purple thing at the bottom right-hand side and you click it, it will open the Collaborate panel, and the first one over is chat.
I got it.
It's a little bubble. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Now, if you were my students, you would have, texted their friend and asked them how to do it. All right. Could you please post the survey again? I just logged. Maybe, oh, you mean if you try it again, it doesn't work?
If you're not logged in when the chat was done, it only records chats for you once you start the meeting. So they must have come in a little bit late. So they would need the link again.
See. Okay, there, I think, and like a good student, Stephen put it up there for you. Thank you. Okay, great. So, thanks, Stephen. Yeah. So before we get started, I was hoping that everybody would just, introduce themselves. I know we can't, there's only 24 of us. It's not that many. And so I wonder if people could just go down alphabetically, starting with Alicia, and just, say hi and say one simple statement of something. I could start. I'm Britt. I'm the director of CISL. And I'm just really happy that this many people are showing up for this event. And I'm really happy that in the fall, we won't be doing Blackboard Collaborate anymore. So Alicia, do you want to start next?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. It's taking me a while I forget the camera navigation on this thing. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Alicia Santuzzi. I'm an associate professor in psychology, and I'm here to learn stuff.
Thanks.
Sent off or are being analyzed.
Okay, alphabetically, I think I'm next. So my name's Allison Gladfelter. I'm one of the deputy directors of CISL, and I'm thrilled to be here for this retreat. And I'm in the speech language pathology department in the College of Health and Human Sciences.
Excellent. Ben.
Hi, everybody. Ben Creed, assistant professor in LEPF. Looking forward to sharing a little bit about the grants I've been a part of and learning from everybody else.
Okay, Christian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christian Sichu. I'm from the cognitive psychology program, and I just graduated. So very
Yay!
happy.
Congratulations, Christian.
Thank you.
Okay, Christine.
Good morning, Christine Malecki. I'm a professor in the psychology department, director of the school psychology program, and I'll be talking to you all for a few minutes a little later.
Excellent. And Dawn?
Oh, hi there. Sorry. I have audio on my phone, and I'm not used to Collaborate, so here, thanks. I don't know if you can see me. Right?
Oh, hi, Dawn. Yeah.
I'm an instructor in the World Languages Department. I teach American Sign Language. And so That's who I am.
Perfect. Thank you. It's nice to meet you. Gol? Hopefully I didn't mispronounce that.
Hi, no, you didn't mispronounce. I'm Gol, and I'm a doctoral student in educational psychology program. I intend to graduate this year.
Yes. Okay, great. And Jamie Mayer.
Hi, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm like just sitting here listening. I didn't know you were going to ask for me too. Hi, I'm Jamie Mayer. I'm an associate professor in allied health and communicative disorders, and thrilled to be here today. Was there anything else I'm supposed to say?
No, that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
We'll hear from you later.
Okay.
And Janet, who's been around since the beginning.
Yes, you're going to date me.
Sorry, but we love seeing you, Janet.
That's okay. I'm Janet Olson. I am from the speech language pathology program.
Okay, welcome. Janine, did I say that right? Janine?
Jean Isabel, I'm chair of the School of Health Studies, and I'm here to be able to learn what I need to help my faculty.
Okay, excellent. Thanks. And Julia? Oh, there you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julia Ogg. I'm an associate professor in the psych department and in the school psychology program, and I'm excited to be here, learn about grants.
Okay. Thanks. And Karen? Okay, Keith, we'll get back to Karen. Keith?
Hello, I'm Keith Millis. I'm a professor of psychology. Hi, Britt and everyone else. I'm excited to be here. I've been involved with CISL for a number of years, and I'll be talking about something later on.
Okay, thanks. And let's see, Kunal.
Yeah, hello. I'm Kunal Patel. I'm representing public health. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I might not be able to stay for the whole thing, so I'm hoping this is being recorded.
Yes, it does look like it in the corner.
Okay.
So, thank you. And thanks for the reminder. Yes. Okay, Lindsay.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Harris. I'm an associate professor in educational psychology and deputy director of CISL. Nice to see everybody.
Great. And then Marisol?
Hello, I'm Marisol Perez. I'm a speech language pathologist and a PhD student in the health sciences program.
Yeah, thanks. And Marissa?
Hi, I'm a master's student in the EHR department, and I'm here to learn about how to write and apply for grants.
Excellent. Thanks. Nice to see you. Melanie?
Sorry. Hi, I'm Melanie Duffrin, and I'm a professor of health sciences, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about NIH grant funding, as well as learn from everybody else about what's going on campus and different funding mechanisms. So thank you for having me today.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. And Michelle Demery.
Hi, I'm Michelle Demeray, and I'm a professor in the psychology department and in the school psych program, and excited to be here today.
Thanks, Michelle. And Rachel, I think it's Donegan.
Yeah, I'm Rachel Donegan, and I'm a relatively new faculty in special and early education, and I'm excited to be here today and learn about grants.
Okay, welcome. And Rachel Rucknow.
Hi, I'm an assistant professor in the math department and also excited to learn about grants today.
Okay, and Rocio?
Hi, I'm Rocio Rodriguez, and I'm a student at the doctoral level of educational psychology, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Ryan?
Hi.
From the Mississippi River, right?
Yeah, around
Are
the
you
banks.
still out there?
Yeah. So hi, I'm Ryan Kopatich. I'm
recently graduated student from the cognitive psychology program, and hoping to learn about grants because that's kind of the next stage in my career. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Nice to see you again. And then Stephen.
Hi, sorry. I didn't realize it was going to jump to me. I'm Stephen Tonks, and I'm an associate professor in educational psychology.
Thanks, and welcome to be here.
Yeah.
And then Susan, our last one.
Oh, is it working? I don't know. Oh, okay. I'm Susan Wilson. I'm an alum from the psychology department. It's good to see everyone. And I'm currently teaching psychology at Loyola University, and I'm happy to be here and learn.
Okay, great. Thank you all for sharing. I just wanted people to feel like they got their system worked out and they could figure it out so that people will participate. You know, there's a lot of new people, so I wanted to get to know some new people. Okay, so the time is now. Writing a successful grant, okay? So here we go. So first, the director's report. I'm going to give a couple minutes on that, and then we'll get started. So I'm not going to spend too much time. Here's the directorship. So I'm the director. Then there's Ellison, Lindsay, and Keith are executive board members. And then we could not do anything without Karen Higgs, who's been unbelievably awesome. Okay, and she is our doctoral fellow. Okay. Please, yes, Karen is the best. Please let us know about your research and your successes. We would love to share them and celebrate your successes with you. And we have these spotlights that you can get on and other things. So let us know if you have anything you want us to publicize for you. Okay. So we're going to start first with the Outstanding Scholar Award. And this is COSSA. And if you have a student, or if you are a student that wants to apply for this, it usually happens like in March, and it's only right now $500, but it's still a good amount, and it will support your scholarly work, and you just have to be a CISL member and participate in CISL activities. And this year's award winner is Nosheen Gol, who just introduced herself, and so just if we wanted to, if we were in person, we could really clap, so congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
So, yeah, I mean, this is really great that you, you know, her vita was really nice. So.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so just to go for the CISL mission really quickly, the center is trying to support research about understanding the processes involved in language and literacy skills to enhance the quality of life at home, work, and the community at all levels. And you know, it'd just be nice to know where different people fall on these 5 expertise so that we can help move forward. So one is the development of language and literacy skills across the lifespan, literacy skills in the changing technologies and communications, and then some that you're going to hear about later is how people teach, learn, and understand and produce written and spoken language, understanding why some individuals struggle, and how to optimize the processing for all individuals. So that's really what we're trying to do. Some of the things that we provide support for are grant writing, trying to build interdisciplinary research collaborations, keep people up to date on technologies and research findings, assist faculties and students in scaling up their research projects, and get equipment. Okay. Oh, and Karen just dumped that mission into the chat for you so that you can figure out where you and give us feedback. Thanks, Karen. Okay, important news. So this is the main point of my part is, other than, you know, the award, this is a 4-year center renewal is due in February 2020. If you could please help us out by sending your vita when we ask for it and doing a little survey to say what your activities were. We need to spend this year focused on activities core to our evolving topic. With Joe, it was pretty much developing, what did you call it, Karen? Developmental education. And now we're trying to change the focus a little bit because, you know, we have different personnel. And so one of the activities for today is to try to figure out what are some of the other core activities that we have other than the one that I'm going to talk about. Okay. Tell us about your awards, honors, and successes so we can publicize them. And we need more indirects to survive as a CISL. And so please submit grants and include CISL as an official entity unit. And keep us informed of your progress in writing grants so we can help you. All right. So the main thing is we need to get grants to survive on indirects. Okay. We have media that you'll see. We have a spotlight. If you want to be part of this, you can be. We have the most awesome writer, Keith Millis, who writes these, and the most awesome editor, Lindsay Harris, who edits them. And so please, you know, we'll present your work very nicely. Okay. So that's all I have for the intro. But one of our key activities for this, is this right? Yeah, this is right. Okay. For this session, in addition to telling you about grants, is to help us figure out what other foci we can have for CISL other than disciplinary reading. Okay. So tips for and strategies for different grant agencies. So we're going to get right into it. Here we have Melanie Duffrin. And if you go to, I'm going to stop sharing this one. I don't know how to do it well. But if you just go to the purple Open Collaborate panel and go to Share Files, you should be able to pick out yours out of that list and click on it. And then at the bottom, it says Share Now. Melanie. And while Melanie's doing that, if somebody else wants to upload, you do it the same way, except for you put a file up there instead of sharing it. So are you good, Melanie?
Okay, so I have it up. Is there, where do I hit the
share? You just click on it.
Just click
on the one you want. And then at the bottom, it says Share Now. And you click that. Yeah. Woohoo.
Good. All right. Great.
These little successes, yes. Okay, good.
Well, I wanted to thank you today for having me. I was going to talk just a few minutes on positioning research for National Institutes of Health funding. Again, my name is Melanie Duffrin, and I'm a professor in health sciences. And I teach research positioning and funding for the doctoral program in health sciences. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit briefly today, as Allison asked me to talk to you, and then also let you know what we have coming up with additional resources for faculty. So when I began talking about grantsmanship, I really like for people to start thinking about, are you ready for grantsmanship? It's really something that takes a lot of time and staying power, and can take a lot of motivation. And it's not something that just happens once. Typically, when you get started into grantsmanship, it's a career building process, and you continue with it. So when I start to get frustrated or discouraged or running up against challenges, and that can happen often with grants, whether you're in the application phase or post-award, I really have to stop some days and just think about all the great things that happen when you engage in grantsmanship. And that's how I've stayed motivated over the years to really stick with it and do this. There's a lot of benefits to doing grants. So what are the benefits to doing grants? You know, a lot of times you'll hear, you know, individuals speaking and just are like, wow, this is a lot of hard work. Do I really want to do this? And there's some huge benefits to it because it can really build your career. The one thing that it does is it enhances the mission of the organization. So I always encourage people that you really don't want to chase money. You don't want to chase RFAs. You really want to think strategically about what the organization does, what its strengths are, and how you can enhance those strengths and bring in more resources to do the things that you want to do through grantsmanship and external funding. And when you do that, it provides additional revenue, time, supplies, and staff for what you're wanting to accomplish. So in doing that, it just increases your research capacity and productivity tenfold. That's one of the ways that I stay and am able to stay really productive, because I build very large teams with bringing in multiple expertise and having people work on projects together collectively. So you really enhance your capacity. The other thing that it does is it enhances the teaching and service mission of the institution. So a lot of times, particularly with us being in an R2 institution, you really have to work on that balance between teaching, research, and service. And you don't really want to distract from any of those missions, because that's what we're really good at doing at R2s. And so you want to use your grants to really enhance all three of those areas. And so you can really bring in a lot of opportunities for your students and really do a lot of service community, even within the scope of a highly intensive research grant. There's opportunities there. So, you don't want to think about it distracting from your other duties, but yet enhancing it. It also elevates the level of scholarly recognition when you start engaging in grants, because you're out in your scholarly communities. You're bringing attention and recognition to the institution, to your programs. It attracts students. You're able to get support for more students. So it's really a worthwhile endeavor for everybody to engage in. And then the other thing for you personally is it advances your administrative skills. You learn a ton of administrative skills from grants. It helps with your career progression, your credibility. Many people want to advance towards promotion, even if you don't want to go into administration. It helps with your job mobility. So if there's ever a time in your life where you need to move from one institution to the next for whatever reason, you become very marketable. It also can enhance your income. So you typically see people that are engaged in grants, they tend to get merit raises. They tend to, when different pots of money come along, they're able to access those. They get research awards that can add to their income, as well as course buyout and summer funding. So those are some other benefits. And then I'm sure you can think of many others. So to talk a little bit about preparing to get started with National Institutes of Health is what I was specifically asked to speak about. I am by no means a National Institutes of Health expert, but I have had funding through General Medical Sciences and have maintained that funding for the past 15 plus years. So I work with R25 mechanisms, but NIU is also eligible for R15 mechanisms, as well as any other mechanism that NIH has, but you have to kind of work on building up to those. We are eligible for R15s because we do not have more than $6 million in NIH funding in a year at NIU. So those awards are a little less competitive, so it's something worth exploring. When you're getting ready to get started with the National Institutes of Health, okay, somebody says, what do you mean when you don't want to chase RFAs? So requests for applications. I've seen a lot of times over the years in my career where RFA will come out and people will scramble to apply for the application, where they're not looking at their focus stream of research, their strengths, and working from things that you're already doing. So it's really important when you're preparing for grants and positioning yourself that you're actually looking for money sources that align with what it is that you're already doing and doing well. So that's what I mean when I say don't chase after money, because your success is not going to be as great. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to do not rush proposals. So I spend a lot of time looking at the National Institutes of Health and all their institutes and all their requests for applications. And I really try to dig in and look and see what are the trends of what they're funding, because that can kind of tell you the political nature of what's going on at the time. They do have mechanisms for less popular emphasis that are out there right now, but you can look for those things and kind of study and see what's out there, and then you want to align what you're doing and your interest in the institutional interest and expertise with some of the things that are going on. So when you really narrow down to what it is you think you want to do, and locate that request for application, what you want to do is prepare a summary, and you want to call your program officer. That is so important to start building that relationship with your program officer. I can't tell you how many people I've seen over the years that just apply for grants and they never have a conversation with the program officer. They just submit it to see what happens. But that relationship is one of the most important relationships you can build. My program officer has just been a wonderful mentor to me over the years. He's just been great and helped build my career. And, you know, I got in the car and drove to DC and met him before I even received my funding, and was on the phone with him often. So again, you want to determine if it's the right alignment, and then making submission plans. I'll tell you that grants are more about planning than they are about writing the technical components. It's about positioning yourself, understanding what needs to be done, and the people in that community. And from there, I say don't rush proposals. I have seen people try to put out proposals in a month or 2 months, and that's just not a good way to approach things, unless it's something that you're already doing and doing really well, and there happens to be a proposal that comes up, then you would move in that direction. So, and then again, relationship building is the key to success. And then here's a few other thoughts, because I know I have very limited time here. So, you know, grants are a continuous process. Call the program officer, take your projects seriously, start with smaller funded projects to demonstrate skills, and keep publishing in professional journals on the forefront of activities. Again, that last point is really important, because you want to keep your publishing productivity up before and after to support your work. So the last thing I just wanted to mention is this academic year, I'm working with the Office of Innovation, and you will be seeing some information coming out about the STARS Faculty Academy. And this is something that we're going to do the first Friday of every month. And we're going to go through some more of these details and aspects of grants positioning and development. So thank you for your time. I hope I didn't go over my 8 minutes, but I may have. So I'll turn it over to the next speaker. Thanks.
Thanks, Melanie. That was totally awesome, and a great first one. I'm just wondering how you get involved in this STARS Faculty Academy.
So the STARS Faculty Academy is, there's gonna be advertising coming out, okay, that probably around August, and the first one will be in September. So you can look for information coming from the Office of Innovation.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions before we move on to Ben? Okay, that was a great first talk. Could we have Ben next? And Ben, do you know how to share files?
I do. I did not make a file to share.
Good. All right.
So feel underprepared.
It's all good. Yeah.
No, thank you for all that information, Melanie. I know I took stuff away, and a lot of it aligns with the things that I was going to talk about. So I've been asked to talk about funding from a state agency, particularly ISBE, and what I'll talk about is focused on the Illinois State Board of Education grants process, but a lot of it applies to Illinois Community College Board, Illinois Board of Higher Ed as well. And I think, so just to get, to do the overview of it, I think I wanted to say a lot of these grant opportunities will fall along with the final bullet, the final part of CISL's mission, which is the processes and activities can be optimized. The optimization of that, that's where a lot of the funding comes from, is looking at what's actually happening and evaluating it, or going out into the field and doing technical training. If that's part of the goal that of anybody in this group, these are sources that might be interesting for it. They're less focused on the scholarly research and more on practitioner-oriented work or implementation of works or evaluation of ongoing programs. So if that's a space that you're focused on or interested in, these are areas within the state of Illinois that are not nearly as competitive as things like grants coming out of IES or NIH or NSF. So they are opportunities to think about work that's going on here in the state of Illinois and getting involved in that. I would echo in this space, relationships are extremely important as well, similar to what Melanie was talking about with the program officer. A lot of, in the state of Illinois, there are key people to begin getting to know in different parts of ISBE and other places. And I'll talk a little bit about how I've gotten access to those folks and invite folks to reach out with other questions about that in a little bit. And I think something to echo from Melanie, from her presentation, besides everything that was shared, is the idea of positioning yourself within the conversations of the funders. I think the state players in Illinois have very particular perspectives on different programs they've either been investing in for 5, 10, sometimes 20 years. And so they're not looking for somebody to come in and completely blow that up and alter, suggest a new model, but they are very open to learning and changing policy and practice based on evaluation efforts and research efforts. So again, as I said, this is a slightly different focus than, and a very different focus than the NIH and IES grants, which are much more on pure research or more on that end of things. And this is more of a focus on practitioners and implementation. So I've been fortunate enough to win 3 grants with ISBE. I've also been fortunate enough not to win any, not to win a handful as well. And I think both you learn a lot about this process. And I've got some information I can share as far as where to find the RFPs, where to find the current ongoing projects. But all of this stuff is publicly available on the agency websites and searchable through ISBE's request for proposals landing page, or through a system called BidBuy. And this is, because of the way that state agencies fund, it's again very different than a federal funding source or a family foundation or a philanthropic group, where it's not rhythmic. There's not a consistent pattern to these. You kind of have to stay on top of it or work with folks who do stay on top of what grants are available when. For instance, 2 years ago, there was a grant opportunity that came through. There was actually 2 at the same time for early childhood space, but since then, ISBE has not funded anything in the early childhood evaluation space. So it's less kind of going against what Melanie said about not chasing grants or wait until you're prepared. With these types of grantings, it's a little bit more, when it hits, you have to act if you're ready to act. And in order to be competitive for this, you need to be well situated and planned and open to move quickly and have the structures in place to help you do that. And the thing that we have here at NIU that I think a lot of faculty may not be aware of is something called the Research and Data Collaborative. It's a new group that brings together folks from across campus, College of Ed, outreach, a group called Ed System Center, the Center for Governmental Studies, where we've recognized that these types of grants require fast action, and something that us as faculty generally don't have the capacity to hit a 30-day window for a grant application on our own. And so what we've done is we've pooled our resources and our expertise to be able to move quickly towards grants. And I think in order to be competitive in a lot of state agency funding, which has a lot of high impact for practitioners, for implementation, for state policy, it's really important to be a part of a group that can move quickly. Unless it's right in your wheelhouse, the likelihood of you being able to pull together a grant application for a state agency it's a tight constraint, given a lot of times these RFPs will be 30-day windows, and then they may not come available for another 3 to 5 years based on the funding cycle of them. And so if the space that you're interested in is evaluation of programs, of program implementation, of training of practitioners in the K-12 space or in the higher ed space around any related issue, it's important to have that team in place. And so what the Research and Data Collaborative, which I'm a member of, is able to do is to bring together people who are experts in professional development, so that I, as a researcher, I'm not a professional development, I'm not an adult learning theorist, but I do evaluation work. I can work with them and partner with them with an individual with program or with a professional development experience to put forth an effort that then can shape, put together a winning and competitive grant for the state, which then can have the impact on state policy or state programming. And so I think, again, the ISBE grants, the IBHE grants, the ICCB grants, so those within the education space across Illinois, is really to be thoughtful about. Sorry, I was just reading Melanie's thing and got myself distracted. But so within those spaces, I think if you want to be impacting policy and practice in those spaces, it's really important to have that existing infrastructure so that you can be ready for it. Even if you don't have the specific expertise across the board, having a team that you can pull from and bring people together to put together a competitive grant is essential. These grants are they're different than a lot of the foundation or federal agencies in the scope of what you're doing. A lot of it is price-based, so you're trying to put together a competitive grant from cost, and you're not given a number that you're targeting. You're trying to just say, I can do this type of project within X amount of dollars, and that's part of the competitive bid process. And it's because of state funding, a lot of times dollars is more important than the rigor of the evaluation process, which actually works really well as a faculty member who's interested in improving systems and structures, because ISBE and other agencies are a little bit more agnostic about how you go about doing it, as long as you hit their key pieces. And you can also inject your expertise and do some one-on-one conversations with state agencies to help them understand ways. And I think the big thing here, as far as what fields are relevant and how this might apply to folks, is it's really dependent on the agencies and what they see as their needs. So to be flexible with how you see yourself fitting into a team would be essential as well. I think that's the main stuff I have for these kind of grants, but the kind of takeaway for me is these are less pure research type of grants, and they're much more on implementation, practitioner impact, and training. So if that's places that you're interested in, these are the types of grants that can really elevate local work with one district or one building or with one area to a statewide impact, and then the need to be agile and quick in responding to these if that's the game that you want to play in, and finding a team that helps you do that is important.
Okay, thanks, Ben. While I set up, does somebody have a question for Ben? I think this is where I am. Okay, great. Hopefully you can hear me. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about IES, NSF, and private organizations. Yeah, thanks, Ben. In terms of CISL specifically, so, you know, hopefully this will supplement what other people have talked about. So here is NSF's my version of their shortened mission that I cut. Yeah, that was great. I wanted to ask that same question. Could you put in, Ben, the organization in case people are interested into the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, and then I can also share a couple pieces.
Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, so NSF's shortened mission, it's to support science and engineering education from pre-K through the end of graduate school and beyond. The research they fund is through thoroughly integrating with education to ensure that there is always plenty of skilled people available to work in new and emerging science, engineering, and technology fields. Okay, and plenty of capable teachers to educate the next generation, so they also do that. There's 7 directorates, and some are the content areas like biological sciences and computer science, engineering. But then the 2 I'm going to talk most about are social, behavioral, and economic sciences, and education and human resources. Okay, and so the education and human resources org chart, it shows, I wonder if I can still do this. Oh my God. Okay, these 2 over here, one is DRL, and that is for below undergraduate, you know, K through 12, and it can be in any learning environment, formal, informal, or even online. Okay, and then the DO is for undergraduate education, and it's very similar. One's undergrad, one's grad. I mean, one's undergrad and one's K through 12. I always mix those up. Okay, so what is their the education EHR Core? It's basic research that contributes to the general explanatory knowledge that underlines STEM education in one of these areas. So they do research on STEM learning and STEM environments, and broadening participation in STEM fields, and then also the STEM workforce development, which we might not be as interested in. But these 2 we might really be interested in applying for. Okay. When they say fundamental research, what do they mean? It's exactly what you'd think, but I'm going to go through the points anyway. Identify and explore new constructs, extend our understanding of current constructs, understand relationships among these constructs, and extend research or evaluation methods for enhancing the evidence base to support improved policy or practice in those areas. Okay, and there's 2 main amount of years. You can either do 3 years or you can do 5 years, and that's the amount you can apply for. It can be any STEM field. It can be any age of learner, any setting, formal like school, informal like museums, or tech-supported learning. Any theories can apply, and they really, so this is why it's so interesting to CISL, they really encourage interdisciplinary work and encourage a focus right now on reducing inequity. Those are 2 things that they're very interested in right now. Okay, because you do have to watch for these trends that they're supporting. Okay, so this DRK12, which is the one that I have a grant in right now, it is pretty much about pre-K through 12 programs of STEM. And you can get grants in 3 major research strands, either assessment, learning, or teaching. The one we're in is teaching. There's 6 types of projects. You can either do exploratory, where you just like figure stuff out, or you can actually develop this stuff and test it. You can see whether there's an impact of it. Oh, wow, that just turned on its own. Where did it go? Okay. Implementation and improvement, and then also I have gotten one of these before. They fund conferences, and so we got this really nice conference on science ed in the you know, from people from both. Oh, they also fund things with other countries. So we did one with Germans, the DFG, which is NSF's counterpart in Germany, for a joint conference between the Germans and the Americans working on the same problem, and so forth. And I'm writing one right now with the ANR, which is the French NSF, and our you know, NSF. So they do in, Europe and US, some Europe and US. Okay. So the grant we have, and I just want to tell you a minute about this to see the type of things that they fund. This is developing a generalized storyline that organizes the supports. This is a horrible title, but anyway, it's very descriptive. Developing a generalized storyline that organizes the supports of evidence-based modeling and long-term impacts on disturbances of complex systems. So we're trying to use simulations to help kids understand the impact of hurricanes. And we have real data from that's going on, has been collected over 30 years in Puerto Rico, and the kids can play with a simulation on that real data that's been collected by NSF. on other grants. And so what we're doing is we're co-designing with high school, middle school teachers in CPS, Chicago Public Schools, to help them with develop supports to help students. One is a causal model diagramming for explanations. Another is how to collect data. And then another one is how to manage your understanding of why you would do these particular practices, scientific practices at a given point. So this is one example of a successful grant at the type of thing that they fund. Okay, and so just back to this, the two main things that you might want to think of applying to are either DRL or DO. Okay, and then you can just find it on their chart. IES is also something we've gotten grants with, Joe, Keith, and I, and Katja. And the two main things here for getting grants would be the National Center for Research, for Educational Research, and the National Center for Special Education Research. And those are the two I'm going to briefly talk about. Okay, what are the main highest level objectives of IES grant programs? To develop or identify interventions that enhance actual educational outcomes and that can be widely deployed. Those are really all words that are important. They have to be like an intervention that would be have true educational outcomes that on their face are, you know, very clearly important, and that can be widely deployed. Okay, they also fund, surprisingly, information to find out what does not work so that further work can be encouraged. So that on their site, this is actually underlined, not. Okay, they want to help understand the processes that underline the effectiveness of these interventions and for whom it works, under what conditions. And then also they develop measures for academic achievement and progress. Okay, so if you go to IES, you'll find that there's two main groups. There's the educational research grants and then the special educational research grants. And under them, you apply to these particular programs. And again, you do want to work with the program officer to see if which one your stuff fits with, and they will help you find out that you're in the wrong one, and they'll help you get into the right one. And so there's like 11 over here. The ones that I've been participating in is the cognitive and student learning, and that's just the simplest, most basic research you can do. And then there's special ed ones, and I've also been involved in the reading and writing and language as a reviewer for those. So if you're applying to something there, Keith Millis and I have both been reviewers on these panels, and we would be happy to give you input. Okay, so there's the project type can either be measurement, so you're trying to develop a new measure, and you can get up to $2 million for 4 years. These are up to. And this includes both the direct and indirect costs. Exploration, so this is where you're just trying to figure out relationships between important educational outcomes and the factors that might influence them, and that's you know, almost $2 million. And then the development ones, where you have some ideas and you want to test them out and pilot test the interventions to see if they work. And then finally, you could do, you really do the harder stuff where you're doing random RCTs with your intervention. Okay. Now, one I want to talk about, hopefully I'm not taking too long, but one I want to talk about is that we have is a current grant, and this is a very cool idea. This is James S. McDonnell Foundation, so there's one foundation that I have a grant for, and this is understanding teacher change and teachers as learners. And this is like, they do it every 2 years, and next year will be the next one that comes up, and they have a core, and the groups work together, and they have talks all year round so that all the people that got grants can learn from each other. And this is a very cool idea. There's a bunch of stuff that we know about how students learn, but it's not getting into the schools, and so they want to do research on, and they do about 8 to 10 of these every other year. There's limited research on how teachers view, interpret, or change as they seek to incorporate new practices into their existing professional practice. And there's even less understood about the factors that influences teachers to decide not to incorporate new knowledge into their practice. So they want to understand how teachers understand data, understand evidence-based practices, and understand their classroom and understand these interventions. Because, you know, the teachers aren't going to be reading the stuff on the shelves in the library. Okay, so the last point I wanted to make is, here's one area that we, Joe, when Joe was here, we missed Joe. And when Joe was here, he had sort of a focus a little bit on developing, what is it called, Karen? I always forget. Developing literacy, or no, what did he call it? Developmental ed?
Post-college readiness and developmental literacy.
Thank you. I always forget the name of that. And as you know, people leave and come and go, and they leave. And so we changed some of our topics that we're focusing on. And right now, I think we could support in our 4-year review that one foci that we have is supporting disciplinary learning. And 3 of the grants that I have currently support this in different ways. And one is using task models, and task models are just like representations. When somebody gives you a task, how are you going to do this task? Somebody asks you to read an assignment for class, how are you going to do it? Somebody asks you to write a summary from a journal article, how are you going to do it? So we're applying these task models and in 3 different ways. One is using task models to support and help students track inquiry learning across science units. So you give kids a unit, and it's like, how do they know that all these pieces go together to form their final argument? Their final arguments aren't very good, so how can we help them build like metacognitive structures along the way so they get a good final argument? The next one is how teachers, so this is the McDonald grant, how teachers understand their own disciplinary knowledge and do it, and then how they use their knowledge of the discipline to decide what to teach and how to teach that, and what they think about the kids. And all of those are task models. And then finally, the one that we're working on right now is we're trying to write a grant for understanding the equity gap in reading introductory psych textbooks and then introductory biology textbooks, so that we can help students read better for the point. So one topic would be disciplinary learning. One of the things that I'd like to sort of start a conversation on today is, what are some of the other expertises that we have in our group that we could say are real concentrations? And I think that's all. Oh, the last point is, when you put in your grants, make sure to put in CISL as a disciplinary unit. Okay, so mine was a little bit more close to CISL about how to get grants, but then we'll come back out to Christine, who was a successful grant. And so, yes, my understanding is that IES has to be in the classroom. At some point, you have to be in the classroom. Yes, IES, at some point, you have to be in the classroom, Lindsay. Thank you. Lindsay, you're a good question asker. Okay, so our next topic is Christine Malecki talking about training grants. And she's somebody that did get a successful grant off of, so Christine, do you want to go next? Oh, wow, that was great, Christine.
All right. I have been taking so many notes, typing furiously, and learned so much already this morning. So thank you all. I'm always amazed at how many resources are out there, and even all the things that have come up on campus resources. So thank you all that have gone so far. I'm going to be talking about the Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs, Personnel Preparation Grants. Everyone calls them training grants. Okay, so today I'm going to focus on 2 of the more common training grants, a 325K and a 325D. These all, again, are under OSEP, Office of Special Education Programs. Just as a point of clarification, trainees are called scholars. So sometimes, I have the word scholars. That's because we're talking about our trainees. What are training grants? They are not research grants. They are focused on supporting students who become scholars when they're funded. And what OSEP cares about is that these trainees will either directly or indirectly positively impact services for students with disabilities in pre-K through 12 plus schools. That is the focus. Whatever you're doing, even if you're preparing faculty, which I'll talk about, you need to make the case that those faculty are going to train practitioners who will go into the schools and help students with disabilities. Okay, the 325K is preparing personnel to actually do those direct services with students with disabilities. So these would be grants for training speech language pathologists, school psychologists, special educators, It can really be at any degree level, but it's training individuals that will be educationally licensed to go in, or professionally licensed to go in and directly work with kids with disabilities. 325D is preparing leaders. That's what we typically, people talk about the D as a leadership grant. They are either serving leaders in the form of faculty, so higher institutes of higher education becoming faculty who train others who go out and impact students with disabilities. And also they care very much about those faculty producing research that enhances the research and the science that ultimately gets in the hands of practitioners to impact students with disabilities. The second priority is training leaders in the schools, so administrators, etc. We focused on 325D. The last one that we just submitted Monday night at 6:30. We got the we've gotten it, and yeah, so it's very intense month of May. Thank you. Yeah, it feels good. And that was the 4 school psychology faculty, by the way, so that submitted that. Okay. Pros and cons of a training grant. So I'll start with the cons. It's the bad news. Really low indirects on training grants. And what we're learning is maybe some of the folks at the college and department and don't always get as enthusiastic about it because it's pretty low indirect, about 8%. And that is on your non-scholar costs. So there's not a lot of money, but by golly, we put CISL down as a unit and every dollar counts, right? So, but the pros are huge, and we have had 2 successful 325Ks. We're running one right now. One is just the no cost extension year is ending. We're pretty much done with that grant, and then now we just applied for the D, which is the leadership grant. The pros are huge. Funding students. It also frees up spots in your department for other graduate student placements because you've got a cohort, at least a cohort taken care of in terms of funding. Recruiting students, that is huge, and recruiting students from underrepresented populations. The benefits are hugely desirable for students. So finding, especially for this leadership grant, finding students that know already, I want to become a faculty member, this is why I'm going into the field, have a lot of research experience, getting just really high quality, fantastic students into the program. So that's huge. It's designed to enhance your training and your program improvement. And we have found it greatly enhances and creates situations to better our research, partnerships with the schools that we're working with, and opportunities to write other grants, including research grants that come from the opportunities that the training grant provides. All right, what does it look like? These applications, they've been fairly similar. There's sometimes they have, like our last one, the one we have, we're partnering with College of Ed office or the Department of Special Education with Woody Johnson, where it is a joint, an interdisciplinary effort where we've got students getting their master's in special education, doing the BCBA program, pairing with our school psych trainees, so they're in dyads, going through 2 years together, learning together, and our students going into the classrooms where the special ed graduate students are teaching and learning from them in real time. Very cool. That was a new requirement, that partnership, and it's been amazing. But the applications are very similar year to year. You need significance, quality of project services, which is basically what are you doing, how are you going to evaluate it, and how are you going to do it? What's your management plan? The narrative is 50 pages, and yes, Lindsay, 600 pages is what our total application ended up to be. On the nose, which we take as it's like a sign that it was exactly 600 pages. I don't know. It feels like we're going to get this grant because of that, because the appendices are intense. Every single syllabus from every single class that is taught in the program, CVs for everyone, just lots and lots of materials. I included here, I'm not going to go through them, the things that they look at for those 4 areas in the narrative. And I wanted to just show an example. You have to do a conceptual model and a logic model. The logic model It's a very prescribed how OSEP wants you to build that, and they have webinars on it. You have to do the webinar the first time you do it to know how to do it. This is our conceptual model. It's just so pretty. I had to show it off. We've been and it was probably the 25th iteration of this over the month of May. And you would not believe how drastically it changed, but showing the 5 goals of the grant: goal 1, recruit; goal 2, specialized training in mental and behavioral health in schools; goal 3, training to advance the science of mental and behavioral health. So research apprenticeships, conducting research, a series of workshops and activities focused on identifying, writing, and managing grants; advanced and individualized statistics training. We're working with RMS, the research methodology. I forget what that stands for. You all know, Alicia's here, the RMS, to have individual funds for each of these doctoral students that would come in on the grant to get that individual statistics help in their research, and consultation and networking with national experts. I just wanted to highlight goal 3. Goal 4 is then all of the other things involved in becoming a faculty member. So thank you, Alicia. So teaching, mentoring others. Also, we learned in putting this together about the future professoriate program that the grad school does. Super cool if you haven't checked it out for your doc students that want to become faculty, and that we built in as part of the grant. Okay, and then what I will say is that OSEP wants to fund programs that are already doing these successful things. You don't have to do a whole lot new. So that's something we learned over the years, is that thanks, Michelle, you don't really need to, totally do everything new in your program. You just want to show that you are being successful, and that then they know you're more of a sure bet. You just have to know how to frame it and really how to leverage those resources. My tips, this is my last slide. Utilize OSEP resources to learn about the application process in advance. So there are webinars, there are videos, there is a lot of information that OSEP puts out, and it's worth your time. We don't spend a lot of time on them because we've written a lot of these. So we've gotten 2. I won't tell you how many applications it took to get those 2. Well, it was a lot. So that's the nice thing. You can repeat, apply really as much as you want, and improve every time. Ask colleagues here or at other institutions for examples. We've found looking at examples extremely helpful. Reach out to your program officer in advance. We keep hearing that this morning over and over again, and listen for those buzzwords. That's what Britt was just talking about. You need to know what the trends are and how to frame what you're doing. If it matches and if it's authentic, it might just be that you're using a different term, and it's like, oh, this is the hot term right now, so that's what we need to make sure we're using. OSEP wants to promote OSEP resources and their other funded projects, so utilize them in your application. Follow every point in the RFP and be really explicit for reviewers how to find those things. Target your reviewer audience, which in OSEP's case is special education. And then get a consultant is our huge advice. I'm not going to say another word about that because Michelle Demaray will talk about that later. That's what I have for you. Reach out to us if you have any questions. So Julia Ogg was our primary project director on this latest application, Michelle Demaray, myself, and Kara Stick. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. That was awesome. Great job. So two things that you said. One is it made me really think, CISL, okay, when we got our first McDonald's, one of the things I should have said about the McDonald and Spencer and private organizations like that, the indirects are like minor. There are no indirects on them, actually. And the woman that we worked with at the University of Michigan is the main group, and they had to actually get special approval to apply for this because it cost them more as an organization to have the grant than they got back as a university. So they had to get special approval to get a grant without indirects. But the university said, this will be such high status to our university that it's worth paying, not getting indirects. CISL feels the same way. And so does Jerry Blasey. that, because, I told him, I got this McDonald, and it's like, okay, it's good. Even though there's no indirects, it still brings up the reputation of NIU. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Okay,
So
great.
don't worry if you're applying to things that don't have indirects. Everybody still cares.
Britt, this is Lindsay. Would you want to explain, because it took me a while to figure this out, what indirects are for our graduate students who are present?
Okay, yeah. Indirects. Indirects are things like, let's say you make an indirect rate with the government of our university, and the government decides that maybe we get 50%. So if you get a grant for 100,000, you actually need for your direct costs are going to cost 100,000. You actually need a grant for 200,000 because the indirects are the other 100,000 that go directly to the university. And so you need, for the McDonald grant we have, all the money comes directly to what we need costs for: graduate students, travel, faculty, summer funding. But if it had indirects, then the university would have gotten a matching amount of money to spend on the OSP, lights, computers, etc. Everything else that the university needs to run. And some of that indirect money goes back to you personally so that you can, spend more for travel. Some of it goes to your department, and then some of it can go to CISL. If you put CISL on there, we get a little bit of money, and then so that we can survive. And then some of it goes to Jerry Blasey to give us more money at certain times, or to give money for like these, the first idea with Melanie about, I'm sure some of the indirects from our grants go to the project that Melanie's working on to get more grants coming in, that we can have available in the fall. So does that help, Lindsay?
Right. So so basically, if you need $200,000 to do your project, you have to ask for $400,000 because the university is immediately going to take half of it, basically.
Right.
So then it'll trickle down to you sometimes, some of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or you have to look at the amount and say, okay, how can I do this? I'm only going to get 500,000 from this grant. What can I actually do given that half of the money's gone? That's another way to think about it from the reverse side is now when you're doing your budget, if you're getting 500,000, you really have half of that to work with. Yeah. So thanks, Lindsay.
So you don't actually budget, when you write a budget, you don't budget money explicitly for indirects?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. Oh, you do.
Yeah.
So
but what I'm saying is in your head, you have to think, how can I actually do this? It looks like I'm going to get $1 million, but I'm actually getting half of that. How can I actually do this work for that half? Yeah. So you have to know if your grant that you're applying for, and most foundations don't have indirects. It just doesn't work that way. But most federally funded grants have indirects. But they could have indirects at the rate of like 8%, like Christine said, for those type of training grants, or they could have, usually the rate is more like 50%, 49, something like that. So hopefully that helped a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
But the university still cares about ones with less indirects. Yeah, okay, there. And Ben said the state ones are 10%. So, but the university will still, help you get these and, and be happy that you have them and so forth. Okay. And sometimes like a Spencer grant might be a good place to start, even though you don't get indirects, you're at least getting your feet in. Keith's first grant was a Spencer grant, I think. All right. I think we're good. Are there any questions for any of the speakers? Lindsay, your questions are good.
Thank you, Britt.
Okay, I have one more point that might not have come up completely. Is Keith reminded us of this recently, but Melanie talked earlier about don't hurry the thing. In general, sometimes a grant can take up to 6 months to really do like all the pieces of. And Keith had a really great mentor, and he said it's about 90% is the last 10%. Is that how it went, Keith? So basically, you want, yeah, go ahead, Keith, say it.
Yeah, it's on my slide. The last 3% takes 97% of the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's true.
And it is true because you want it to be done early so that you can get a lot of feedback and you can make sure everything's dotted and you got everything perfect. So polish really matters. So anyway, okay, great. So are there any other questions? I should stop talking for a minute. All right, so we could take a break till 11:20 if people want to go get a break, and then we're gonna please come back on time. We'll give you extra time now so that you can come back on time, so that we have a very important breakout group that we would like everybody's feedback on. So go take a break. It's 10 minutes, so that would be 11:20. Yes, thank you, Allison. Okay, welcome back. I hope people are back.
Here.
Okay, good, Allison. Okay. So Karen's going to take over for now. Karen Higgs.
Okay. Great. So next, oh, I can't advance the slides. Should I just share it? Oh, thank you.
There you go.
All right. So next we're going to do some breakout group to brainstorm a little bit. And what we would like to brainstorm about is what Britt had talked about earlier about kind of getting some more I can't say the word either. Foci to the center, some like to build up some areas of expertise in which we're really active and have collaborations going around and get a reputation for. And like she mentioned in previous years with Joe and Norm and a lot of folks, we had a heavy focus on college readiness and developmental literacy. So we're looking for some other areas where we're working on building some disciplinary literacy focus, but also what other areas can we do? What are the obstacles or missing pieces? And what kind of activities or presentations or speakers could we bring in to help us with that? I'm going to put everyone into some breakout groups. And Britta, what are we doing? 15 minutes and then 5 minutes to report out?
Yeah, I think that was right. Where's my schedule?
Okay.
Yeah,
I had
like
a quick
15
question.
minutes. Yeah.
What do you mean by obstacles or missing pieces?
Well, I mean, one obstacle we can't really talk about or missing pieces is we probably are not hiring new faculty members. But it could be like maybe you have this part that you'd be interested in, but you don't know if this other part is available. So, for instance, some people in the maybe biology department, we could meet with them or something. So are there connections that we need to make with different people across campus or at other universities that would help us build up that, you know, to be able to write grants or to have that as a focus? Does that make sense, Allison?
Yes, thank you.
So it's just sort of like, what are you working on that you might be interested in having a piece of CISL being focused on? You know, I think we've done beautifully, continuing since Joe left, having 3 colleges very, very, very involved, but they're still not interdisciplinary at this point. You know, I'm working a little with Stephen, but in general, I'm not sure that there's a lot of things that we could point to in our 4-year review that are, you know, highly interdisciplinary and across the 3 colleges. So that's one, for example. So, okay.
Okay, so I'll put everyone into a group. So Allison, Lindsay, Britt, and Keith, if you could be the note takers for your group.
Okay.
And then I'll give like a 1-minute warning before we're going to come back to the main room. All right. And how do I start the groups? Oh, here we go.